By listening to this podcast, you agree to not use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in yourself or others, including, but not limited to, patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall any guests or contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of the Neuroendocrine Cancer Awareness Network be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Nets Get Real by NCAN. I'm your host, Mike Wayman, and today we've actually got another net expert. And what I've said in a couple of episodes already is you don't have to be a doctor to be a net expert. Caregivers, patients, they're all important, right? And they're all experts in their own right. And this expert happens to be somebody who was diagnosed when they were 11 years old. They lived their lives and created a family, and he's going to talk to us 30 some odd years later, happy as ever, living his life, doing his thing. We have Mark Patton. I've known him for a long time, met him in past conferences and stuff like that. So we're going to chat with him a little bit about his journey. But before we get into it, again, National Conference is in Atlanta, Georgia, this November 10th through 12th. Happens to be Net Cancer Day. It's taking place at the Marriott Marquis, where we're going to have over 20 net professionals on hand to answer your questions, do some presentation. Registration is open. Go over to netcancerawareness.org to get more information on that. And of course, all of our social medias at NetCancerAware. And you can learn about how you can get involved when the hashtag Zebras Take Atlanta, hashtag we're trying to make things young, make things upbeat. So speaking of which, we're going to invite our guest today, and it's Mark Patton. Mark, hello. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, how are you, Mike?
Good. How are you?
Good. That's right. I met you, I think, 17, almost 18 years ago.
It might have been my first conference
really?
that I was at with my parents. It's when they started getting involved with the national in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where we met. And it's funny because my mom, she'll generally say, "Oh, well, Marianne, of course." She's, "Oh, you met this person, you met this person, you met this person." And man, you meet a lot of people at these conferences. You really do. But we were younger, so I feel like we kind of got along a little bit more, and it was a little easier to talk to each other and whatnot. So, we've known each other for a long time. So
long time.
I'm really happy people there.
Yes,
right.
Thank you.
Exactly. That and our wives. Or
that's right.
Girlfriends at the time or whatever.
Yes.
So it's really cool that you're on. And again, I alluded to it earlier. You were diagnosed when you were just 11. So
that's correct.
A lot of the patients that are, sometimes involved more and kind of whatnot, like the leaders and things like that. They're a little older, but you were diagnosed when you're 11, and here you are 30 some odd years later. I'm trying not to date you. That's all.
32.
But
that's all right. 32 years later.
Exactly.
That's right.
But yeah, now here you are. You've got a family. You've got a job. You're living your life. Right. So can you tell us a little bit about your net journey, how it started, when,
sure.
Everything from the beginning?
Sure. You want me to go all the way back to the beginning? All right. So I was 11 years old. Actually, even before that, I was a normal, healthy little kid. I had pneumonia a couple times, And one time I had a mucus plug in my right lung. They did a bronchoscopy and laryngoscopy. They went down, they sucked all the mucus out. And then about 2 years later, I got pneumonia again, and they said, oh, it's probably the same thing, a mucus plug. They went down in, and they found a tumor, which they said we should probably remove this. And so that was February when I was 11, and then they took out my whole right lung through my back. And then they followed me for 5 years, and they said, right on, you're cancer-free, go live your life. And I did. So I lived like nothing was happening. Meanwhile, I had it. It was continuing to proliferate and grow and go wherever it may. And then in 2006, August 2006, exactly 11 months after I got married, I was re-diagnosed, if you will, with a second primary in my throat on my false vocal cord, and took 3 surgeries to get that bad boy out. And then, let's see, I had a liver debulking a year later, Y90 in 2010. Then I had 4 cyber knives and radiation to my sternum, my hip, my L4, just all kinds of you know, just the whole gambit of treatment. I've probably had it, probably experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but,
yes.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, I met you and your parents. So I was diagnosed in 2006, and then I met your parents that fall because I was just trying to digest as much information as I possibly could to figure out what the heck is going on. Where do I go? What do I do? I was lucky enough where my godmother is she's a physician's assistant, and she said, don't, you got to handle this very specifically. And she was actually the one that found you guys and said, hey, here's a conference. And then I think it was up in Portland in 2006.
Okay.
And then I met your parents and then a bunch of other NET patients, which, holy cow, 18 years later, these people are just as much of my family as my parents and my brother and everybody else. I made some really long-lasting relationships and met some doctors and talked with them, figured out where to go, what the best course of action is. And then about a year later, I met up again with your parents at a conference in Pasadena, and met some different doctors. And that's when I got turned on to just the sheer fact that, you know, you have to go to a center of excellence. Like, you're not going to get this with your normal oncologist who doesn't really know what the heck this is. It takes a while for you to wrap your head around the whole cancer diagnosis, and not just the sheer fact that this is cancer. This is a rare cancer, and you know, you're definitely one of a kind with this, and you need to go to where there's a center of excellence. And so that's kind of what helped guide me through this process, rather than just, I mean, I think I could have gone down to my local oncologist and they would have put some treatment plan together. And I don't think I would be here today in the shape that I'm in had I done that and not taken it as serious as I have.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you one of the things that, you know, what are some of the things that you would suggest? And you hit one that's like, we stress it all the time on shows like this, and you know, any of the talks that you see my mother make or anything like that, you have to go see, like Mark said, a center of excellence, a multidisciplinary team. Yes. Even if it's not regularly, like, you don't go, you know, once a month or whatever it is. You do have to go and make them a part of your team. You can find local doctors to help facilitate some of this stuff, so you don't have to go traveling if it's too far out or whatever it may be. But it's super, super important to get the right team behind you, and especially a team that's well versed in this type of rare cancer. You had a lot of that done in at LSU, correct?
That's correct. At LSU Ochsner. That's right. NOLA. Those are kind of my. Yep. Those are my guys. My first throat debulking, I met Dr. Coles, who I believe is retired now, and he was at Moffitt Clinic, and I went there very specifically because he had a throat guy who had dealt with carcinoid before. But there aren't, in the whole carcinoid world, there aren't a whole lot of people that work on false vocal cords. So you're going to have to travel around to those people. After I did that, there was obviously liver involvement. And then Coles said, hey, why don't you check out my good friend Gene Woltering down here in New Orleans? And so then I traveled there and met him and his whole team. And then after having a surgery in 2007 with Dr. Boudreau and Dr. Wang, it was the decision that would be kind of my home of who was going to take care of me. And then just like you said, my local oncologist would help facilitate kind of the local things. But I would travel back and forth to New Orleans a couple times a year for scans and for, my overall advice.
Right.
And care.
Now, we've talked a lot about treatment. We've talked a lot about things that you've gone through, the surgeries, the radiation, all that stuff. But what I really want to talk about is the first time you had it, you had a scare, I guess you would say, or had the big cancer diagnosis was at 11. And then the second time you were just married. So
yes,
you have gone through a lot of life since your diagnoses and since you've got a family, you've got a job, you've got all those things. So it is possible. It is possible for somebody to be going through all of this and still have a quote unquote normal life, I guess you would say, and achieve things that somebody would usually, they'd say, oh no, I can't do it because I've got to, focus on my health or whatever it is. But I feel like it is something like that, something that pushed you harder to get better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the lens of life that I look through is a lot, is very different than other 43-year-olds in the sheer fact that I do understand how lucky I am to continue to be here, and that Carcinoid has pushed me harder with career, with family, with health, with other things. And the achievements that I've had while having cancer or carcinoid are things that most people don't even do who are totally fine, normal, and they haven't done those things. Living with carcinoid, you're living with carcinoid is the way that I look at it. You're living with it. You're not dying from it. And I look at it like, at the very beginning, I was really freaked out to have a family. I was like, well, I'm not going to be here. I'm just passing through. This is this is a death sentence. And then the more information I got, I'm like, okay, well, hold on. This is something you live with for a very long time. This is something that, you have a daily activity. In my mind, I don't really, some people let it be their 100% identity where it runs absolutely everything. And for me, I say it's kind of the complete opposite where, I have a family, career. A lot of people don't even know what's going on. I mean, you look at some people with carcinoid and you don't really know. You have no clue. So yeah, it's definitely something where you can still, have an extremely fulfilled life with it. It's more of a nuisance than anything. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I do like the fact that that you brought this up, that you're living with it and you don't let it define you.
Nope.
That's huge. I think that's something that not enough people talk about or think about or even have that type of mindset. So that's really awesome. How do you keep in that mindset?
Holy cow, that's a great question. It's almost like a secret identity that I don't let a whole bunch of people know about. That I kind of, you know, some people wear it as a badge of honor. Like, hey, I have this, I'm living with this. Some people hide it away. For me, it's another thing to conquer every single day on a daily basis and just live it to the absolute fullest. And it doesn't need to be everybody's. It doesn't need to be everybody's business. And I just try and go above and beyond without having a label or diagnosis that everybody knows about. That's just for me and myself. And if I decide to share that with somebody, then I do. And maybe it's because I was diagnosed with it so young that I didn't really want to be labeled as that. I don't know. Maybe I should go see a therapist about it. But, but yeah, maybe it was because I was labeled so young, or not labeled. I was diagnosed so young and then re-diagnosed again. Really, at the beginning of my life, I was 27 years old, and and carcinoid isn't one of those things like other types of cancers where you get it and you do some sort of a treatment and then it's done and then it's gone. This is something you live with. And so I had always looked at it as such, where I said, all right, this is going to be something I live with. Just kind of like, I'm 6 feet. I also have this. And, I like hamburgers and I also have carcinoid. And, I mean, it's just,
right.
Yeah,
it's just another thing per se.
Yes.
So what do you feel is important, newly diagnosed patients? What is the first, besides the, center of excellence and stuff like that? I kind of think that how should they approach it, and what kind of mindset, how do you adopt the mindset that you adopted when you were 27 years old and just got married and whole world in front of you?
This is something, going back to, this is something you live with, not die from. And this is something that you're going to have for a really long time. And you need to make a bunch of smart decisions. And then it's not just you and your spouse or you and your family. This is you and a family and a community of people that are there for the mutual benefit of each other, to make the best decisions for each other so that you can live the fullest, longest life possible. I remember when we were in a conference in Vegas, there was a young couple that just got diagnosed. He was a firefighter, and it was a husband and wife. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to do this big, huge surgery. I'm going to get a J pouch." And I was like, "Whoa, hold up, dude, time out." To like that's a big deal, man. Like you might want to think about your options. And you have this community of people where you can rely on each other's experience, and you say, well, hey, I did this and it worked, or I did this and it was a terrible decision, or it was really tough for me. So just approaching it with the right mind frame of, this is going to be a long road. So you got to make some smart decisions. And, this isn't trying to get in that right headspace of this is this is a long road together. I guess a lot of people feel like they're adrift in a rowboat by themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's not really the analogy that I like to use. I like to use the analogy that you're in a rowboat with other people helping you pull the oars, And, I do think that a cancer diagnosis for a lot of people feels extremely lonely, but I don't really feel alone. I never really have felt alone. And I think it's because I went and I met some people who I said are like family to me. You look in these people's eyes and you know right away that they have experienced the same heartbreak that you've experienced, the same pain that you've experienced. And that connection is just, it's incredibly gratifying and it's incredibly deep. So yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that.
No, it's huge. You know, the NET community is something that a lot of people are really enthused about, and it's not to say that other communities aren't, but that's the one thing that we always hear, especially from an outside perspective, how strong the NET community is,
totally
close knit, and how in tune everybody is. You know, I feel like a lot of other diseases out there kind of have the community, but I feel like because it's smaller, you know, because it's a rare cancer,
yes,
it's even that tighter knit.
Absolutely, hands down, agree with you. Couldn't agree more. I mean, you are rarer than rare, and when you find another person that's rarer than rare, you're like, hey, you know, it's almost like you don't even need to talk. You know?
Exactly.
You share conversations with just a glance, and you're just and someone, you're just like, I know I know what's going
on. So how important was your support system? I mean, again, you get a passing diagnosis, and you said initially when you were 27, like, hey, I'm here I'm passing through, or whatever it is, and you weren't thinking about family and stuff like that. Your wife was not taking it. It sounds like
what
she was not okay with that decision and that thought process that you had.
So
I'm passing through.
Yeah, exactly. So I can tell you that when I first got diagnosed, I truly believed that I did not have very long. I mean, things were so just everywhere. You know, a lot of people get misdiagnosed for a number of years. That's kind of one of the, you know, hallmark signs of carcinoid. That I had so many tumors everywhere that I had mentally made the decision of, I don't have that much time. I'm not going to be here all that long. I didn't really want a family. I didn't really want to start a family. And it wasn't until I really wrapped my head around the fact that, look, it was an emotional journey from beginning to end, where it was, no, you have this entire community of doctors, nurses, and support staff to help you be here today and for a very, very long time. And hopefully I'll get hit by a bus when I'm 85 rather than die from carcinoid when I'm 45. And it took me a while to really wrap my head around that, to just get in the right mind frame. And that would be something that I would definitely tell a brand new, newly diagnosed person, is that you're going to be here for a really long time, and you'll hopefully get hit by a bus at 85 or 89 or 95 or whatever, rather than die from carcinoid in the next, 5 years or what have you. And it takes a while for that emotional journey for you to accept it and say, all right, it's going to take some work. Yeah, it's going to take some work, and there are going to be some things that suck, and you're going to have some cool scars and some not so cool scars along the way. And you're going to be here for a long time. Yeah.
And then, but your support system was your wife encouraging to that, or was she scared?
She was incredibly encouraging. I mean, it's weird. I don't think her and I we got diagnosed, I think, August 14th, 2006. And I don't think either one of us really shed a tear. We were like, let's get on to getting it fixed. Let's go. Like, we just ponied up and we were just like, off to the races. Let's get this figured out. And I'm very lucky that I had a spouse like that who said, let's figure it out. Let's get this taken care of. Let's go. Let's get busy living. Let's go. Yeah. So I was lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, yeah, that's all. That's great. So why is it important for you that a newly diagnosed patient or whoever it may be, why is it so important to become a part of the NET community? Why is it so important to be involved?
First off, I would say number one is knowledge, because you can't make informed decisions without the knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge of the NET community of a greater good, then that has not only the access to the knowledge, but it has the years of doing it. Making a decision on your own is one thing, but making a decision where you have several hundred or even a couple thousand people that have done this before, you can make a much more informed decision, which will lead to better quality of life, better longevity, just a multitude of great things. Additionally, the support, the community support from other people. Like I've said, there are people that are family to me. And when I'm going through something, you know, I'll either get a quick text or a phone call or what have you. And it just lets me know that I'm not alone. I have all these people that are behind me, or, oh, I went through that, no big deal. Or, hey, I know your scans are coming up. It's always a scary time. Or, so knowledge, support, just a sense of community, a sense of identity, a sense of belonging. And, you know, things are always ever evolving and ever changing. And it's kind of like a decision tree where you want to leave as many decisions open to you as possible. And if you're making those decisions alone, you may go down the wrong path. So being able to do that together, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. And now what about, we talked about the conferences and stuff. From a patient standpoint, because I know it could be overwhelming. You know, we talked about the national, where we're saying, hey, there's going to be 20 doctors there presenting and answering questions. It could be overwhelming for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But what is the biggest benefit of going to a conference or a support group or whatever it may be happening?
I'd say access to the doctors first and foremost. I mean, at the first one that I went to in Portland, there was a woman doctor who just finished giving a speech, and then we went for a break. It was like a 15 or 30-minute break. And I just went straight up to her and I was like, hey, I'm newly diagnosed. My name is Mark. What do you think about such and such? Like, where else are you going to have that happen? Like, that does not happen. And then you also, so that right there, having access to 20 doctors who are 20 of the biggest specialists in the world, that just doesn't, I mean, you would have to fly all over and it would take you months for that to happen. It would be super costly. That would be very difficult to replicate on your own. So the access to the doctors, and then also access to other caregivers or healthcare companies, and then just the fellow people that you go through. I had it when we were in Portland. There was another doctor. That's where I met Dr. Nutting, who did my Y90 when we were at Pasadena. I met Dr. Coles in Portland and had like personal one-on-one conversations. A couple times we were in Vegas. I met and had beers with Dr. Boudreaux. I mean, like, stuff like that just does not happen at other, you know, in other type of, it doesn't. So access and to realize that these doctors and nurses and caregivers are there for your benefit. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, you're pretty lucky to be able to have that. It's a big deal in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's experts and stuff, and the days are long, and it's a lot of information. Yes. But you come out better for the experience, I think, personally. I've been through a lot of them, so I know this.
Yes, you have. But
and then I've watched them over again.
It's a fantastic refresher course, even for someone who's been doing it for as long as I have. You go to a conference and you sit through some of the lectures, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that." Even though you've known it your whole life, it's a great refresher course. So it's really important in my mind.
And then also, you know, we were talking about it before we went live, is just the information. It's ever changing, the new developments and things that are happening. I mean, you know, things that happened 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, may be irrelevant now. You just don't know, because it's ever evolving, and there's new information and new research being done every day. So be up to date with it. You know, this is where you're going to get it.
Where you thought it was a gold standard 10 years ago, they're like, we don't even do that anymore. That's right. We don't do that. Let go of that. Like, so yeah, to have a refresher on new information, as well as the upcoming and new things that are coming out, which are pretty cutting edge and pretty insane. So that's also nice. It continues to give you hope for all the new stuff that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So before we sign off here, what you have any parting words for the people who are listening and or watching?
No, I'd say that, you know, you need to come, and you need to come to your, first off, get involved in a local chapter, because you have local people that you could meet with. I have a local chapter, probably 15, 16 miles away from my house, where it's a whole bunch of people that haven't been doing it as long as I have. And I'm able to share some information that I have and say, oh, wait, hold on. No, I have this oncologist. Maybe you guys would have great experience with this oncologist here instead of the one that you're going to, or vice versa. And then going to a national conference where you can, you know, figure out your center of excellence. You can have access to those doctors, those nurses, and then building your community of support around that, which is so important. I'm just super thankful that I was able to meet you guys almost 20 years ago, and how far we've come, you know, collectively, both your family as well as me, and then having my own family. So it's just, it's an exciting time. You know, we're lucky enough to have this disease with each other. So, you know, that's the way I like to look at it.
That's awesome. That is a great way to end off the show. Mark, thank you for hanging out with us. Everybody, please make sure you join us at the national conference. Go join your local chapter meetings. We're actually going to start kicking off some live stream Q&As specifically to chapter meetings. So definitely you want to be a part of that. Go to your local chapter, find out more information about that. If you get a chance, head over to the YouTube channel. We're always putting out new stuff. I mean, you might not be watching this right now. You might be listening. So head over to the NCAN YouTube channel. You can watch it. You can see what Mark looks like. You can see his beautiful face. It's great. If you like stuff like this programming, please follow us, like, subscribe, give a 5-star review. It really does help podcasts beat that algorithm, and it helps create more awareness for neuroendocrine, and that's what we're here for. Again, follow us on our social medias, Net Cancer Aware. Go to the website, netcancerawareness.org, for more information, for more events, and to find your local chapter. Thank you so much again for joining us on Let's Get Real with NCAN. Mark, thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mike.